All right. Hi, everyone. This is Scott at ARIVE. I am ready to get started if everyone else is ready. Looks like we have a few people who are rolling in. Just as a quick reminder, the point of today is mostly just to ask whatever questions you have and get those answered. Now, that said, I kind of like to frame the call a little bit ahead of time, just kind of let people know we are recording, number one. And number two, it is a public call, right? So that said, we're not going to really dive into like specific loan files. If you need help with those, definitely hit us up at support@arrive.com and we can kind of help you out after the call. But what we do today is kind of more if you want to see any features or ask about what Arrive does or just best practices, really just about anything that isn't troubleshooting a specific loan file. We're happy to talk to you about that. I kind of simplify it as it's kind of like a demo with the Q&A minus the actual main demonstration. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to jump away. We don't really have a dedicated Q&A section for the chat, but you can definitely feel free to type in any questions or unmute and ask a question directly.
Hello.
I see. All right, we have some questions coming in. Let me go ahead and tackle these that just popped up. What is the best way to use the client's needs section of Arrive? And also I see another question, when is the main demo? So the main demos happen about 4 days a week. You can actually, let me share my screen. I don't think I'm doing that yet. So if you come into arrive.com, I'm just kind of tackling this one first because it's super easy. So if you come to schedule demo up here, this is going to take you into where you can schedule a demo. We do break this apart into sort of a typical company versus non-Dell specific or a company with like 20 plus users. The idea here is that probably the 20 plus users is going to have a lot of users on the demo. So we just kind of give them their own space. And then non-Dell because we go over some features that are specific to non-delegated business, whereas this would be kind of more of a typical use. So you can schedule these. These are live demos. We also have a pre-recorded demo that is on support.arrive.com. So if you want to check that out, that's also a really great way to get going there. So this is support.arrive.com. If you come down to our webinars and training videos, top up here is Arrive demo. So you can definitely check that out. It follows pretty much the exact same process we would do in a typical demo, just a lot more slowly and obviously not interactive. So usually a good streamlined way to get started is watch that video and then come to one of these and ask any questions. All right, so what's the best way to use the client needs section of Arrive? So the client needs section is basically just what are you asking the borrower for when it comes to documents. So you're going to be using that for your initial document collection. And if you're doing the collection of conditions in Arrive as well, you'd be using it for collecting conditions too. So really, it's just more or less anything you either need to ask the client for, docs wise, or any custom questions you want to ask as well. You can just use client needs for that. So you have a way to automate these requests, but in general, it's just any document you need from the borrower, right? So here, you can see I'm asking for pay stubs. I'm asking if they'd be interested in an insurance quote with my business affiliate. That's an example of like a custom question. And they can actually answer that and it'll complete over a PDF and send that over to you. Let's see, I have some people in the waiting room. All right. Pretty much, again, like if you need to add to this, you just come to plus client needs, plus need, enter in whatever you're looking for. We have a lot of defaults in this list for you. So you can just kind of pick and choose and say, all right, I want, 1040s or, what have you. And when you do this, it'll populate the running list behind it. You can come in, ask custom questions or request a custom document as well if you don't want to mess with that list. If you click behind it, you'll see that we have the list of running requests here. You can come in, modify anything. We do have defaults here. I'm just going to describe to the client what you're looking for or how they can satisfy the request. But you're pretty much just updating this to say, hey, this is what I need. When you're good, you can come down and either save this and send it off later or preview and send it all off at once. So that's kind of the gist of how this works and how you would use it. The other thing to be aware of is that, again, you can customize and automate these requests. So this is something that admins would have the ability to change. If they come up here, they can go to company settings and they will have a client needs rules section where they can actually say, hey, I want to ask for these types of documents and these types of situations, right? So client needs rules is the screen here. And really all it's doing is just saying, hey, I want to ask for these docs when these rules are true, right? And this is actually going to get an overhaul this week to make it a lot more robust. So definitely keep your eye out for our release notes on that. That'll be coming, I think it's actually coming Thursday. I don't remember the exact date, but very, very soon. We'll be doing an announcement about it as well. All right, so what is the best way to do the client needs section, main demo? Would it be better to do the demo before this class? I would say probably, but at the same time, I mean, you can hear anything anyone asks in here. It might be helpful. It's kind of up to you. I would say probably the most streamlined and efficient way to do it would be get familiar with the system, then come to one of these Q&A sessions and ask away. How can I work on a file with another loan originator and have us both view the file at the same time? So anyone who's assigned to a loan file can see that loan file. So you actually have the ability to go in and say, hey, I want these people to be assigned to this file and see it. You can do that from the file contacts screen. So if I come in, I can go directly into file contacts down here at the bottom. And basically this section up here is the loan team. This is going to show you everyone on your side who's assigned to this file. Again, anyone here can see the loan. If you come up to edit, this lets you pick and choose who you want to include here. And it doesn't matter what their role is. You can add in anybody, even another originator, right? So you can just come in, pick who you need to add in. In this case, I think I already have Brianna's new, so I can add Brianna. So I can just come in and say, all right, I want Brianna in here, add. And then at that point, she would be assigned to this file and would be able to see the file as well. You guys can currently access the file at the same time as well. So can we use the needs rules as a checklist for the file? You can when it comes to like what you need to collect for the file. What you're probably more looking for would be sort of like a task list or like a procedure list or workflow or something. That's actually a separate feature we're going to be rolling out either at the end of this year or like early next year. And that's going to give you the ability to automate tasks, assign them to specific people, have due dates, track notes for those, have a dedicated task pipeline. And that's all going to live on the current Loan Center screen. So that's going to be updated and basically just show you a whole list of tasks. So long term, that's going to be what I would suggest you use. Right now, client needs rules is kind of the closest thing we have in terms of just like tracking what needs to be collected on the file. The other thing we have is up here, we have this notes section. So this is a little dialog box in every loan file you can click, and this will open up so that you can come in, put in any kind of note in here. Anyone with access to the loan file can see these notes. You can also come in here, and when you make a note, if this notify users is checked, this will actually notify by email everyone on that loan team that we're looking at here. If you deselect this, you can still make a note and it won't notify anyone, or you can also directly mention specific people and say, hey, Brianna, I need you to do that processing task, right? And when you do this and add this note, even though this is unselected, basically Brianna would get an email about this. So this is another way you can kind of track what needs to happen in the file and things of that nature. So that's kind of my interim solution for tasks, but that is also coming as a dedicated feature soon. And yes, there will be a task manager function. So answered two birds with one stone. We're going to go back to listen to these recordings. So these are going to be posted on YouTube, is my understanding, just period, kind of going forward. So basically, after we're done, this will, like the recording will encode, then we will kind of jointly come together and get that on YouTube. So most likely by next week. Are there plans for a Zapier integration? There's not a plan for a dedicated Zapier integration. We are going to be doing open API support next year. So early, like first half of next year for sure, quote unquote, and expected it would be at the end of Q1. So when that's live as a premium feature, you'll have the ability to do any kind of connection API wise, including a Zapier connection. And basically you can kind of do almost whatever you want, but the intent behind that is going to be for CRM connections. So if you want to do like a custom CRM connection, you could do that, but that would be how you'd be able to do things through Zapier. Now, or Zapier, I think it's called. So the thing to know about that is that we unofficially, so in other words, we don't officially support Zapier. And the reason why is because of terms of service concerns. But we do have a lot of clients who've actually successfully used Zapier today just by automating things off of the emails that ARIVE already sends. So if you want to try that, you can definitely give that a shot. We do have some, I should say, not that we have them, but some clients have actually put together some instructional videos on our YouTube, or not YouTube, Facebook group that you can check out and see how they use it, see what they've successfully done, and kind of go from there. So if you want to see that, then that's a good resource too. Does Arrive work with any CRMs, and how do you set up a realtor co-branded page? So Arrive does not currently integrate with any CRM. That kind of goes back to that open API thing I was talking about. So first half of next year, you'll have that as an option. But then also we're going to be launching some CRM connections. Basically, it's going to be a priority for us, like moving on into early next year as well. So the first one we're hoping to get out before the end of the year, and then we're going to be prioritizing those for Q1 and Q2 as well. So that said, basically, by the time we hit mid next year, you should have a few options for out of the box connections, and then you should also have the ability to build out custom connections if you want. And then for the real estate agent co-branded pages, so if you come into any loan file, you can go to the setup options screen, and that's going to give you the ability to come in and dedicate or essentially assign, if you will, a real estate agent here and say, hey, I want to work with this agent. And you'll notice there's this permission section, right? And this is going to be determining if the real estate agent can come in and see this file or see like high level details about the file, I should say, or if they can actually generate a pre-approval letter in addition to that. And if you set these up, there'll be an invite checkbox here. And if you do that, you'll actually be able to send them an email invitation so they can access the real estate agent portal. And from there, they'll be able to see any loans you've given them pipeline only or more access to. And they'll also be able to generate co-branded links for the borrowers, right? So co-branded application links. So I'll show you their view in a minute, but this is how you would initially kind of give someone access to a loan file. And then if you come into the business contacts and find that real estate agent, you'll also have the ability to generate those links yourself. So if I come in, it's like test agent, right? If I come all the way over to the right, there's going to be this actions section. And if I click that, it's going to have a copy URL option. And this will show me all of the loan officers in my company. So if I wanted to generate a link that was an like my application link that was co-branded with test agent, right? Then I could just click here and it would give me that link. And I could just send that to them directly, right? So email this to them and say, hey, give this to anyone that wants to apply with us, right? And that will take them to a page like this. So that's how you would generate it on your side. The real estate agent has the same ability, just looks a little bit different. So this is actually what the real estate agent would see in the real estate agent portal, just basically high-level details about the loan files. If they wanted to generate a co-branded link for you, they can come into their business contacts pretty much exactly the same way. They see all of the LOs that they work with here, and then they can just come over to copy link for that LO and then send that to their borrower that way. All right. Is there an efficient way to upload conditions after submitting a loan from manual upload loan? So right now we don't pull back approval conditions from any lender. So really the best way to go about it right now is to go in and actually go into the loan file and add in those conditions, kind of like I showed you do plus client needs, and just add those conditions to the client needs list. That's kind of the best way to go about it today. We are going to be adding a better like conditions tracking feature that will sort of parse that out a little bit more and give you more management of that. I think that's coming in Q1 of next year. So it's pretty much right around the corner. I just can't tell you an exact date right now. Okay, remove questions from the POS that aren't really needed, such as asking how much they can afford each month. So you can turn off dedicated, like you can turn off entire screens. So admins, again, have access to this. If they come to the company settings, they can go to POS config. This gives them a checklist of what we're asking for, right? And so pretty much if something's checked, we're going to ask for it. If something is not checked, we're not going to ask for it. So, if you wanted to turn off the entire screen in question, you could. But for the most part, we don't really break out too many fields or specific questions at this time. So if there's anything like related to RESPA or that is commonly requested to be turned off, we made that available, but we can't get as granular as like question by question yet. So what I can do though is basically take down that you've requested to turn off that specific one and basically get a case started for a little bit more granularity or possibly just turning that question off by itself. What I would recommend is if you do have like a lot of, like if you're going through and you're like, there are like these 5 that I really just don't want to ask for, everything else is fine. I would say go ahead and email that to support@arrive.com and just give us the list of what you want to turn off and why. And then we can get a formal case going to try and get that customizable for you. Is there a built-in CRM function on the horizon? So we do have some CRM light features is what we call it. So in the dashboard, we do show you the like upcoming birthdays, loan anniversaries, early payoffs, and MI drops. We also will help you track your contacts, and we send off those automated milestone update emails to kind of rope your borrowers, buyers agents, sellers agents into what's going on in the loan file. So that's frankly what most people are using their CRM for today. Now, granted, we don't really compete toe to toe with a CRM. We're just trying to focus on what we do offer today and make sure that's as good as possible before we bite that off as well. So for now, it's going to be what we have, and then also giving you CRM connections. Long term, CRM is kind of the biggest functionality piece that we're missing in terms of literally being a one-stop shop for brokers. So I think it's probably a matter of time, but I can't like say, oh yeah, it's going to come in like Q3 or something like that. So I wouldn't really expect it.
Oh, sorry, on that, are you able to send out like, because it already tracks the birthdays and loan anniversaries and things like that. Can it do an email? Can we set up an email to go out on those? So
It
it's
doesn't
kind of
automate
very
the
low
emails at
end
this time.
functionality of CRM.
Yeah, so it doesn't really automate them. You would have to come in and actually like grab the emails and send those out. So yeah, it's not quite as sophisticated as a CRM. It's the immediate plan is going to be if there's something that's like really easy to implement that would make a lot of sense to have an ARIVE, then we definitely can take that as a feature request and put it in. But we're not really expecting to launch like a full dedicated CRM
Right.
for
That
the
makes
like
sense.
short to midterm.
Do you think like an audit, since you already have the tracking of the birthday and loan anniversary, do you think the function of shooting an email out is one of those easy possibilities?
Yeah, I mean, I could see it happening. Again, though, I mean, it's one of those like I would have to on my side, I would have to just create like a feature request for you to formally request that, and then it would be ultimately kind of up to Harish and the rest of the team to determine like how we want to prioritize getting that out in addition to what else we would work on instead, right? So I can definitely formalize the request. I'm just not sure like when or if it'll happen.
Okay, yeah, I mean that'd be cool because like I said, not having a full functioning CRM totally makes sense. There's much better things to be working on, but just having like small little things like that would be great.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I definitely get it. Enhancing the way that these work basically, I think makes sense.
yeah, totally.
All right, cool. So let me check out some of these other questions. So can we move? Is there CRM? How do I use the chat and phone features? Is there a way to link it to an app? So I believe you're talking about the stuff at the top left of the loan file. So we have some buttons up there to kind of quickly send off a phone call or an email. So these guys up here. So with those, right, they're basically a standard like what am I trying to say? There's like a type of link that you can build out in web design that essentially automates what your browser does with this type of stuff. So we just basically tell your computer, hey, if you click this, we want to do an email. If you click this, we want to do a phone call. So what actually happens is they're just kind of standard. They don't connect to anything specific, but your browser will try to do something with it if you click it. So for example, if I click here, it's going to try and open up whatever my default email program is. And I can actually configure that in Chrome. So if I click this, it'll actually take me into my Gmail because that is the program that I have associated with email links. If I had something installed to make phone calls, it would actually be something I could set up so that I can tell Chrome, hey, if you get a link like this, basically send it to whatever program I use. And same thing with the SMS text message. So if I have a program that can handle that, then I can open it up from here. But there's nothing like native in ARIVE that like you have to configure or that does it on its own. It's really just relying on whatever your browser wants to do. So for example, if I click this to call, right now in Chrome, the only thing I have set up related to that is potentially pushing the number to my cell phone. So it tries to do that, right? Or open the Your Phone app on my computer. And it's asking me like, what do I want to do? But this is more something I've set up with Chrome and on my computer. It's not really something I've configured with ARIVE or anything like that. So the question of, is there a way to link it to an app? I kind of high level talked about that. If you have trouble figuring that out, you can reach out to our support team. We might be able to kind of help you figure it out, but it's really kind of more of like a computer setting kind of a question. That might be dependent on exactly what you're using, but you can actually go into like your settings in here and kind of set up how those work basically. Can you show me where to find the demos again? So that's going to be on support.arrive.com. So support.arrive.com is just kind of our main support site. You can also, for anyone who is curious, you can also get to this from this question mark if you're actually logged in. So if you already have access to the system, if you click up here, it'll take you right there. And if you come down, right, webinars and training videos, that's going to have our demo as well as other videos that you can check out. So what e-sign software can be integrated with ARIVE? That right now is only DocuSign. So we have the framework built out. We're going to support other vendors in the future, but at this time, it's only DocuSign. We are launching a DocMagic integration extremely soon. That will be a full doc vendor integration, but they will also support e-sign. So if you wanted to look at them as a potential alternative and you feel like you have need for DocMagic, you could check them out. But in terms of like the create e-sign need functionality, right now it's only DocuSign. Next year, we're expecting to expand that out though. What pipeline? Oh, the pipeline view is becoming very crowded. How can the application start as a lead and then move over to a loan? So right now the leads are something that you have to like manually make, right? So I can come in here and do a lead and basically I can view my leads pipeline. I can come in plus new lead and create them that way and kind of manage the pipeline that way. Right now, I kind of tell people it's more for managing borrowers that you want to follow up with or track and sending out quotes. It's not really meant for starting an application or even pulling credit or anything like that right now. Pretty much just if you want to track someone, you can track them there. Then you can convert this lead over to a loan if you want to start capturing the actual application. And so because that's kind of the main distinction that we make between leads and loans at this moment, that's also why our POS will only work in loans. So because the POS for our current feature offerings, it always is more or less just asking for the 1003. So it's pretty much limited just to loans at this time. So we don't have the equivalent of like a short app. That is a feature that's being tracked for potential release though. And then that might be able to actually make leads. One thing, I don't really have an ETA for this, but I know that one thing that Harish wants to do is kind of revisit leads and kind of flesh these out a little bit more. But there's been kind of a question of like, what exactly should they do and not do, because there's not really an industry standard for what a lead is. So he's still kind of trying to figure out, exactly what all we should devote time to and energy to like expand them to do. So long story short, you should have a lot more options with this soon, but I can't tell you exactly what it's going to do. In terms of what you can do today, if you're actually doing a POS link, it would be a loan. If you're wanting to just maybe parse some things out, you're just tracking people, then you can manually make a lead for them. So maybe another thing, if you want to maybe like reach out to support, or if we have time, if you want to maybe talk about it some more, I think that the problem of your pipeline being crowded is kind of more so what I want to focus on with that question and kind of figure out, what's causing it to be crowded. Is there maybe something else we can look at that would maybe help you like build a filter or something similar? So for example, if we come into the loans section of the pipeline where probably most of your volume is, if you come up to this filter, right, you can kind of pick and choose what you want to see here. And you can also save these filters. And so if you save different views, you can come up here to the top left and switch between these views periodically. And that can, in some cases, that can actually help you really kind of parse out what you need to be doing. This is especially useful for processors who kind of work on different tasks throughout the day and need to see like different groups of loans and kind of move things through a queue. So that's an example of how you can maybe kind of set that up, just kind of so you can say, okay, I need to see these specific loans and I'm doing this type of task. And you can save views dedicated for that. For originators, everyone's going to be a little bit different. I don't really think that this is as useful, but it could help. One thing that I want you to know about as well is that whenever we're releasing some of these features later this year / early next year, one of the big ones that's going to come out is more of a like Kanban view for the pipeline view. I'm not sure if everyone's really familiar with exactly what that means, but it's going to be like a card view. So if I come into the Facebook group, I should be able to show you exactly what I mean. Basically, you'll be able to kind of like move loans from between different columns of statuses. And I think it's going to make everything a lot more visual. So people that really operate that way, I think are going to really, really like it. So I'm a little bit more of like a list person personally, but everyone's different. I think that if this is something that like just helps your brain wrap around it, it's going to be a huge improvement. I'm just looking for the mock-up picture right now. I always look over this one. It's one of those like the tiny preview doesn't really jump out at me all the time because it's just white like everything else. Let's see. Did he remove it? He didn't remove it. Here it is. So this is kind of what I'm getting at. This is what we're going to be building out. This will give you the ability to really kind of track what, where things are and hopefully parse it out a little bit so it doesn't feel like you're overly crowded. You can kind of figure out like what's going on where and what all that. So hopefully that helps a bit. But definitely if you feel like you're running into more trouble, type it up. We can maybe look at it a little bit more closely in a separate call or in support or what have you. Or as we have time, kind of more high level, talk about it in this call. Is there any title company whose pricing can sync with ARIVE so you don't have to run pricing on a separate tab? If not now, then in the near future. So I'm not 100% sure what you mean by running pricing on a separate tab. Let me answer high level real quick and see if maybe that addresses the question. In the pricing engine, we do have a smart fees feature with the integrated fees. So if you come into the pricing engine at the top right, there's going to be an integrated fees option. If this is checked when you run pricing, this is going to actually pull in from a company called Closing Corp nearby title and settlement service provider fees and actually include those in your estimated closing costs. And then similarly, if you actually go into a loan files review fees screen, that's going to have a smart fees button at the top left, which will pull in nearby settlement and service providers based on the actual subject property address. So you'll be able to go in and actually pick and choose like who you want to use for title or who you want to use for your settlement service providers. And it'll pull in those fees directly from them. So here I'm going to go to review fees, right? And this is going to show you the smart fees button. If I click this, we push the subject property information over to Closing Corp, and then that pulls over nearby title and settlement service providers. And I can see their actual fees in here and import those fees directly. And if I don't want to use this particular provider, I can click here and it'll show me all the nearby title companies and pull in their fees instead. So that's kind of, I think that's more or less what you're looking for in the question, but I was a little thrown off by some of the specifics of like the pricing engine part. So let me know if I maybe misunderstood.
Hi, my name is Bobby. I just want to say thank you. That was exactly the answer to the question I was looking for. I use a company for title called WFG. Do you guys happen to work with them as well, as far as are they one of the providers?
So we pull these from a company called Closing Corp. So their smart fee system is like it's owned by a company called Closing Corp. So I'm not too sure what you'd have to do to get them in here if they're not in here already, but I would definitely take a look at their website and reach out to them and see if that's like a partnership that can be started up. But yeah, because like we don't actually manage this service, so we just kind of pull back whatever it is that they send to us. So again, that'd be Closing Corp. Yeah. So yeah, closing.com is their website. I'm not sure, again, like I think maybe if you just contact them and ask, they might be able to see about adding them in. Because I've had that question come up here and there, like, oh, I use like a mom and pop company, like how likely are they to be in there? And I think it's probably just an agreement between that title company and Closing Corp, but I'm not too sure. I see a question basically asking if we can, a different way of phrasing it would basically be like, can we recommend a credit company, credit vendor? So I can't really steer you one way or the other and say like, oh, this vendor is better than another. What I can say is that we have a lot of people coming to us using Advantage, and we also have a pricing discount with Advantage Credit. So if you want to maybe reach out to them and kind of mention you're using ARIVE and kind of see what they offer, what they look like, I would definitely recommend that. If your question is kind of more, what do people like using? I would definitely say reach out on our Facebook group and just ask the group, because all the other brokers can kind of share like why they use who they use or what are the pros and cons of one vendor versus another in the system. For the most part, I mean, I think it's more of a pricing difference a lot of the time. They all kind of send, a lot of them work with Meridian links, so the kind of the structure ends up being very similar. But and I was saying Advantage credit. So someone was asking if I was saying Advantis. Advantis, as far as I know, is fine, but Advantage credit is kind of the one we have that pricing deal with. So definitely check them out if you haven't already.
Yeah, I guess my question actually, I already improved the backward logic, but I find out ARIVE later on. Somehow I noticed that ARIVE does not support the core logic. I have to manually like input the liability section. That's my question. What's a workaround? I already been proved it's too late. Has to double the efforts if I got another credit agency.
So, so sorry, I want to make sure I understand. So is the question how to best handle using core logic, or is the question what would be a good alternative to core logic?
No, my question is how to input the liability.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're not using a vendor who connects with us, then honestly, there are a few drawbacks to that. Number one, obviously, you have to pull credit outside of ARIVE and then basically just upload the credit information into ARIVE. So that's kind of your expected drawback, and that includes going in and actually manually adding the liabilities. So if you come in financial info, there's not going to be a fast way to do it. You would have to actually come in plus liability and add them all in, right? So that's hurdle number one. Hurdle number two, which is less expected, is that we also require, if you're going to run AUS in our system, that you have an integrated credit vendor in there, because we do like we push integrated credit information for that report to the AUS. So you also wouldn't be able to seamlessly run AUS and ARIVE, which for a lot of people, that pair of issues or I guess workarounds causes a bit of a concern. So a lot of people would prefer to ultimately switch vendors. I get that that's not a small undertaking either, though. So I'm not just trying to tell you, oh, no big deal to switch vendors, but it's just kind of one of those like, it's a much better experience if you can use someone who's integrated with us. So I don't really have a great solution. I mean, it really is just kind of, if you pull the credit outside of ARIVE, you have to update manually everything that you get on that credit report in ARIVE. And this is where you'd ultimately do that for the liabilities.
Okay, I think I get it. Yeah, the best way probably is have to switch vendors. If not, the AUS has some issues. Actually, when I use CoreLogic, the AUS always have issues. Either I can run LP or another deal was never worked together. It wasn't good experience either.
Yeah. I mean, one thing just to know is we are looking to provide CoreLogic as a credit vendor solution eventually. I just can't really tell you an ETA. They're not the one who's like right around the corner to being added. So it's going to be definitely next year at best. But we are tracking the demand for them, and we're working with their legal team and everything like that. So we want to get them in here. We're working towards it, but I don't think it's like right around the corner, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so once an invite has been sent to a prospect to complete an application, are there automated emails that get sent as reminders to complete it? To be honest, I don't. If you send the email and they don't interact with the email, I don't think that we send them reminder emails. However, if they start an application and they don't finish it, we do send them automated reminders. And you can turn that on or off on the setup options screen. So if you wanted to send them reminder emails, it would be a matter of coming down to the bottom and making sure that the pending borrower app submission is turned on like this. So as long as this is on, then we'll send that off. And basically our behavior for that is we send an email reminder once a day for 5 business days. So that's kind of how that works on the loan level. Admins can configure this. So if admins want to default this on or off, they can do that in the company settings. And they can also template the actual email that gets sent for the reminder. So an admin can come in and go to email templates in here in the company settings, and can come in and go to reminder emails, and they can actually come in here and edit this template. So this is the actual email that would be sent out to the borrower, reminding them to come in and actually complete that application. And from there, if you wanted to default this on or off, you can just click this, and this defaults it on, this defaults it off, right? So just check the box if you want it on, deselect it if you don't. Now, again, I'm not 100% sure if we send that as soon as you send the email, or if we wait for them to actually like click the email. I think it's the latter, but I can double check on that and let you know. So Aaron, just to make sure I have your email address, would you mind privately sending me your email address just in the Zoom chat? And that way I can make sure I capture that question. So I have it on my side noted down. Okay, and I do have your email here. So make sure I get that. All right, so I've got that noted, and I'll try and get back to you on that one. So I do see I do see some other questions as well. Okay, so all right. So I have a general question to so the shortened version of this question is basically, is there a way to automate the escrow calculation and like the disbursement months and stuff like that? The short version is we don't really have a great support for that at this time. So if you come in and do the closing cost section for the admin settings, you can actually come in here and kind of put in some defaults for those calculations, but there's not really a way to default the disbursement or the number of months and things like that. So you can put this in here, right? But it's really just kind of general. It's not going to be really based on the actual property in question. The best we can do is automate it based on state. So you can put something in there, but I kind of recommend you just put something that kind of hits kind of close as an estimate. And then before you send out a quote, actually update the value before you send it to the borrower, or at least just let them know that that's kind of a ballpark and it's going to change once they actually lock in their subject property, right? So that's kind of what I recommend in general. That's kind of how it works in general. Changing it in the loan file, you would just come into the actual review fees screen or the quote before you send it out, and you can just change it there. You can modify the months and everything as well. So if I come into the closing review fees, gosh, I was looking for closing costs. So here we have like the months and everything. So you can come up and modify them here or update the expenses and go into the proposed housing expenses and modify all that stuff. So that's kind of the high level of how it works. But we don't really have, I mean, honestly, this is a feature a lot of people ask us for that there's a little bit of a gap there in terms of like how fully we can automate that. I think I hit every part
Scott,
of that question.
it's
Yeah.
Matt.
Hey,
Scott, actually the question was, I mean, I see that we have the option to update the numbers in the escrow, but instead of doing the numbers, I mean, let's say in Calyx, we used to have like update whatever the month is due. Let's say if you put June or July, the correct number of months will come automatically. You don't have to do manually.
mm-hmm.
Does ARIVE give that option for us too? Because I don't see where we can put as a month, but only it asks 5 months, 6 months, 7 months. That's the only option I see in ARIVE.
Right.
Is that the only option that ARIVE provides for now?
Yeah, we don't have the disbursement build out at this point, so there's not really a way to automate that. That's something, again, that we do get asked about, so I can definitely kind of add your information to a case and kind of add demand for it. But right now, it's just kind of real high level, like what I showed. You can't really go in and say, like, you know, for this county, we automate this, and this, and like these are this is the disbursement schedule and all that. So it doesn't really get automated at this point, not in that way.
Got it.
What is the you showed that you can do it by state. What is the state calculation?
So basically, you would go in and say, like, put in this value when the subject property is in this state. So closing costs. So basically, you would come in and say, like, okay, my hazard insurance, you know, it has this interval. and I want to populate it in this way as long as it's in Florida, right? And you can populate all the values and do like a percentage of the property value or whatever in terms of calculating that out, and then just say do all this when the subject property is in Florida. And then if you wanted to work it with different calculations or estimations for different states, you could then add other hazard insurance premium calculations and do them for other states instead. Just check the box differently in those. And so it would automatically assume this whenever you were doing a loan in that state. But again, I mean, because of the fact that we don't really do the whole like disbursement schedule build out, it's really just kind of more of a starting point where you can go in and update the value before you send out the quote rather than being fully automated. Now, I do think that some of this stuff comes over from Closing Corp as well in the case of like taxes. So that's one thing to keep in mind is if you use that integrated fees checkbox, then sometimes you can get more accurate values that way as well. Cool. So I actually don't see other questions. Were there any other questions anyone has at all? Please feel encouraged.
Hey, Scott, I got one more question too.
Yeah.
So on a purchase file, we sometimes have title insurance credit or some home warranty credit, some credits we need to apply towards customers' closing costs. So where do we update that in the fee summary? I mean, do we have an option to update that credit to the buyer's closing costs?
So you're looking to credit the, yeah, so let's come in. So you're saying actually credit specific closing costs, is that right?
Correct.
Would it be like a seller's credit?
It could be like a title insurance credit, honest title insurance.
Okay, let's take a quick look. All right, so I know we can do seller paid. I know that we can do. All right, so let's come in. Because we can do purchase credits like this. Let's see. So like, I'm sorry, let me confirm I understand. So where would this credit, like if you're doing like a title credit, like what would that be generally considered? Like how would you expect to put it in like a different system? Or like show it on an IFW?
It would be like a seller's credit, but it is in addition to the seller's credit, you know.
Does that have to be shown separately or?
It will be shown separately on the CD normally on the fee sheet. It will be like adjustments and other credits. That's how it comes on this LE.
Okay. Yeah, let's see. So if I do, just for the sake of seeing what that does. See what that looks like. So we'll go ahead and save that and see what the LE does with it. All right, so. Okay, so it looks like we have that, yeah, populating there like that. Yeah. So I would say just go ahead and put it in the purchase credits. Is it possible to have that happen in a refi?
Not exactly. I mean, a refi won't come anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, there are a few in refis as well, but it's not as usual as purchase, you know. Purchase, we have a lot of credits. So it was under loan and property. Is that right?
Loan and property and then purchase credits.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
You might want to show how to do it as a seller paid fee as well, because normally that's how it's shown. It's shown as a fee on the an itemized fee, and then listed as seller paid at closing rather than borrower paid.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it's pretty easy to add that as well. So just for the sake of example, just something here, seller paid at closing, right? You could do it this way as well and save that.
That's cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's take a look. I'm just curious how it looks on the LE as well. If anyone has any other questions, please jump in. But I just want to see what it does here. So it looks like it's still only doing the 600, but then it's breaking the fee out separately, I believe. Whoops, let's see. Am I missing it? Where'd it go? Maybe it's not actually showing up. Shouldn't it be showing this? Do you mind typing in, just because I want to make sure you get like 100% the right answer here. Do you mind typing in like an example or two of the type of credit you're looking to show? I just want to make sure that I run this by the team and get this 100% in the right spot for you. Because it didn't look like it was actually showing that review fees whenever you did the seller paid.
Yeah, he was talking about the owner's page, the owner's title policy. So if you go back to that title examination fee you just added in there and click the drop down.
Let's just do this. I'm gonna remove that entirely. All right. So we'll do plus fee.
Scroll down. It's yeah, owner's title insurance optional, that one. So that's usually paid by the seller, so you can add it in there. It's seller paid. And then see if that picks it up on the LE. It might just not show on the LE because it's seller paid, but I think it normally does.
So I thought it did too. That's why I got a little confused, but let's see. So I'm not seeing it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just spacing out and that's not supposed to show here, but it doesn't cost. And it's not showing as a seller credit either. Or like any other, it's not any adjustments. Yeah, let me take a look at this outside of the call and just see if I find anything on that. So I'll take down your info, Matt.
When you're doing that, you probably want to test it on transfer taxes as well. So those are usually the two purchase fees that are generally paid by the seller.
Yeah. So we'll definitely need to take a look at just how do you expect it to show on the LE and see what we need to do in our system to get it there. So I'll definitely take a look at it and get back to you on that. I thought that I could have sworn it would show on the LE. I guess maybe I'm just spacing out or something, but I'll definitely take a closer look at it and let you know.
Can you view a closing disclosure in the system?
So we don't generate CDs at this time. The expectation is that probably you're going to be getting that from the lender or going through a fulfillment service. So yeah, we don't have a way to preview that in here right now. We will whenever DocMagic is live though. Generally speaking, does running one-click dual AUS count as a reissue as it relates to credit vendors and involve an additional charge for each time run? To be honest, I'm not 100% sure how that works. I know that it does pull credit. I'm not sure if it hits as a reissue or if you're charged for that. I would say that'd be probably someone on the call could answer that, but I would say if you're not sure, maybe reach out to your credit vendor or possibly Fannie or Freddie directly. Unless maybe someone already knows. I have to imagine someone on the call knows, but yeah, it's just not really a topic I'm very familiar with. Cool. Yeah, I mean, any other questions at all? All right, hearing crickets. Oh man, we dropped big time in the participants. We had like 20 participants. We're down like 14 now. Yeah, we might explain why we have some crickets. So I do see a question. What is the plan for custom docs? Let's go ahead and check the actual ETA on this because this is like right around the corner. And I remember I was stumbling a bit over the actual ETA. So the current plan is for, okay, the current plan is for this to release tomorrow. So that's going to include both a custom need or custom form release, as well as need enhancements and logic and things like that. So we have that basically slated. Last I've heard is that it's releasing tomorrow. So definitely this week, and I think tomorrow. And so, yeah.
So is that it? That's where we can not only upload custom docs and create needs based off of those docs. That's that thing, right? Because there's Doc Magic, which is separate from custom docs, correct?
Doc Magic is going to be separate from custom documents. They're both going to be releasing kind of around the same time. That Doc Magic isn't going live tomorrow. I'm not exactly sure what date it's coming out, but very soon. So custom forms, you'd be able to basically say, hey, I need to generate this like custom, like maybe a state specific disclosure or like a custom broker disclosure. You'll be able to upload that, map fields to it, and then generate it just like any of these other forms that are right here after you've done the initial setup, right? Now the client needs are going to be a little bit separate. I don't think that you'll be able to do client needs based on what comes back in a document automatically, but I thought maybe that's what you said, but that's going to get its own separate enhancement coming out tomorrow as well, where you're going to have a lot more options for the logic that you can build out. And it's just going to be, basically, it's just like a slight enhancement of what's already there. And it's going to be also an interface change to make it a little bit more clear, like how it's going to work with like the logic that you're building.
So one thing that is kind of a pain that would be nice is like even letter of explanations for credit inquiries, where you have to go in, you have to put, you're trying to give the borrower options to fill out the forms and whatever else.
Yeah.
Integrated with DocuSign, DocuSign has a pretty robust, form filling out, system, I guess, but I feel like I'm having to like do a lot of stuff, like send a lot of my client needs, through ARIVE natively, but then there's like 2 or 3 different forms that I have to go back and do straight and DocuSign separate. Is there maybe potentially a bit more robust interface with DocuSign, or do you think maybe some of those the Doc Magic and the other stuff will take care of that?
I think maybe I didn't hear what it was that was like, why is it that you're having to do things directly through DocuSign?
So like, like I'll put like radio buttons on, on forms for the borrower to sign out, or like,
oh, I see.
Some of those other, like more than just free text fields.
Yeah. So I know the expectation, like, as you mentioned, the letter of explanation, one of the things you'll be able to do with the fields will be actually making it something that can be filled out by the borrower. So I know that's something Harish talked a little bit about and showed off in the ARIVE University before last. And basically it's like, you'll be able to put a field on there and have them actually be able to fill that out.
Right.
I'm not 100% sure if it'll be able to do radio buttons. I think it will. But I know at the very least, one of the nice things that we're doing, or that you actually have access to now, is that you can actually create a question like that in the POS as well. So letter of explanation is probably too early, or that's probably too early for the letter of explanation to make use of that. But I just want to let you know about that too.
Excellent.
But yeah, if it's really just kind of that, like I can definitely get back with Harish and kind of say like, hey, are we going to be doing radio buttons for this as well? I think the intent is kind of bridge the gap on all of that stuff, but I'm just not 100% certain if it's going to be all of it on day one or not. So I'll definitely double check on that for you.
But super excited about custom docs.
Say again.
Waiting. Said super excited about custom docs and then waiting a while.
Yeah, I think it's going to be it's going to be a big one. I'm pretty happy it's like right around, like it's tomorrow. I think it's pretty nice.
Tired of the questions.
Yeah.
Hey, Scott, John, in sort of a segue to Lauren's comment about custom docs, I looked at DocuSign, Panda Docs, and then I looked at Adobe Acrobat Pro DC, and that seemed to be the biggest bang for the buck if you've already got Adobe, even if it's just Reader. Is that something that you guys would be doing an interface or incorporating with ARIVE?
So we are going to be expanding out to have different e-sign options. Vendors are still to be announced. I can't really tell you like, oh yeah, we're going to do like these 5 or something like that. But we are looking at different alternatives. And basically, anytime someone suggests or requests a specific alternative, I go and make a note for Harish and specifically say, hey, this person wants this one, right? And that way we can kind of track like who's the most in demand and start looking at them and figuring out like what it would take to get them in. So definitely what I've already done is I've gone ahead and made a note that you've asked for Acrobat Pro DC, and I'll go ahead and formalize that note and make sure it's tracked. And then from there, Harish and the team will kind of go through and figure out like who we can get in and all that.
Really appreciate the presentation today.
Yeah, thank you for joining. I really appreciate all the questions. Yeah. So speaking of, we're kind of close to time here. So if anyone has any last minute questions you've been sitting on or just something that jumps out, definitely try and get it out now.
You know what, on that whole DocuSign thing,
Yeah.
so I know or is it already incorporated into ARIVE, or is it something that I need to go and get get a DocuSign account and then kind of link it up to ARIVE?
So you'll need a separate DocuSign account, and then you can actually just link it to ARIVE pretty easily. So if you go into your user settings, and there's a link for this as soon as you go in and try to actually send an e-sign request as well. So we make it pretty easy. But you can come into credentials, and there'll be an e-signing section here. And you can just basically come in, and this takes you to DocuSign where you can log in and give it access and all that stuff. But once you've done that, it basically just authorizes against whatever credentials you set up here. But you do need to have that separate account.
Gotcha. Do you guys happen to have like a, I don't know, like a discount code or anything with them?
Not at this time. It's pretty much just go to DocuSign, let them know you're using ARIVE. They kind of let you know like what different options they have that will work with us. And then you just kind of go with them directly. I am not too sure like what the pricing is or like what plans do and don't work or support with like the integration. I think that more or less, I think it's like the step above their most basic version works with ARIVE. But again, I'm not really too sure. So I would definitely reach out to them and kind of figure out what your options are.
Cool.
All right, cool. Well, I know we are at time. I think I have to jump into another call actually, but I really appreciate everyone's questions. There's another one of these on Thursday with Tara. So definitely if you do have some more questions that can wait, feel free to jump in with her. Otherwise, support@arrive.com is a great way to get in touch with us, and also the chat widget at the bottom. So don't hold back with the questions, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week if you show up.
Thanks, Scott.
Yep, thanks everyone. All right. Have a good day.